Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things Eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this week is episode 86 of the podcast, where we're going to be talking about the fact that we have drafters going to the World Championship of Eternal. That's right. We made it, guys. But first things first, I want to go ahead and welcome my good friends on the show as usual. Joining me on the line, first up we have Alex.
Hey boys, how's it going?
Going good, man. Also, Darth Herman 2. I gotta throw that out there because now people are starting to actually message you in game since they know who you are. So sweet. The other side of that great coin that's on the line is John Holio.
Hello.
And finally, that's right, like I mentioned earlier, we have drafters going to Worlds. Granted, I know we have drafters going to Worlds earlier because I think Sunnyvale and Collector count as drafters as well, but this past weekend we finally were able to finish the drafter limited championship tournament thing that sent 4 drafters to Worlds. We have 2 of them on the show with us this week to talk about their journey to the World Championship. So first up we have Gunner116. What is up, friend?
Hello there. Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, the honor is all ours, especially considering the time zone you're in. And then the flip side to that coin is a guest that we've had before and is just an absolute wealth of knowledge both in stream and just in game and on the podcast is SuperVaderMan. Welcome back, friend.
Hi there. I'm glad to be back. Last time I said I'd be happy to share my knowledge, even though I don't consider myself that good. But I don't know. Maybe I'm better than I thought.
I mean, it gives you a little bit of credibility, right? Just a scotch when you end up going to the most prestigious tournament in Eternal through your limited prowess. So
when I almost win the whole thing, I guess I'm pretty good.
A little bit of housekeeping real quick is you can catch us streaming live on twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And where you can catch the video version of this podcast would be YouTube. Just search up Eternal Journey and bam, you get some draft content, some constructed content, and once again, the video version of this podcast that helps when we do our set reviews and our draft walkthroughs. And finally, some shout outs. We really want to give a shout out to all the people that help make this podcast as well as push it, as well as the Twitch channel, right? Because streaming ain't cheap, especially for someone that plays as bad as I do sometimes. So I want to give a shout out to all the people that continuously support the podcast and all the great things we do here. Thank you guys so much. But a couple of special shout outs. A new subscriber who does that, 1983. Thank you so much for joining the Jedi Order. And then fellow streamers, Great Good Manda coming in with the 3-month sub, earning her Jedi lightsaber, and Better Up, friend of the show and great streamer as well. Focusing on limited, coming in with the 6-month resubs. That means that they've earned their Darth Maul lightsaber. But once again, thank you so much to everyone that has supported this channel. Really do appreciate it. You guys are fantastic and keep up the good work, and we'll do our best. But all right, Vaderman, you know what's up. Gunner, not sure if you do, but the first things we like to do is kind of warm up our limited brain muscles here and do our pack one, pick one. And this one's pack one, pick one is donated or given to us by a friend on the Discord. Alcide Baba was kind enough to show us this one, and I do think it's kind of an interesting one. So Gunner, are you ready?
I am indeed.
Outstanding. So I'm going to go through the cards, and then since you guys are the guest, I'll let you take first dibs on what you're looking at in this pack and why, and then we'll send it over to Vaderman. So the pack consists of the commons. We have Silverblade Reaper, the 1/1 Flying Deadly. I'm going to go through these a little quick because most of us do feel like the format is a little stale. So for the sake of brevity, I will not explain every single card through. We have the Mandrake Shambler, which is the 4/1. With that cannot block with imbue. Overheating Metabot is a 3/2 reckless for 2, and you can sack it to get 3. Chemical rounds, slow speed decay, 2 damage for 1 fire. Smogwing Tinker is the 4/4 flying Tinker for 6 Quad Justice, gain 4 armor when it's summoned. Towering Arachnid is the 5/2 that summon, sacrifice unit to plunder. Slag Fury Berserker is the 1/1 Berserker with Imbue. Roland's Enforcer is the 1/5 ambush unit, and then when you play another card on your enemy's turn, Roland Enforcer gets a +3/+0 permanently. Going into the uncommons, we have Mobilization, which is the slow spell with Revenge that gives you 2/2/1 Beast for 3 double primal. We have Curtain Call, which is the 3 Shadow fast spell with Revenge. Give 2 of your units +2 attack and lifesteal this turn. If you have 4 time influence, your units can't be killed this turn. And finally, Omen Scar Worm is the 8/8 worm for 8 power and 4 time influence. Has Surge, draw a card. And rounding things off at the rare slot, we have Oscar Chief Tinker is a 2/5 Tinker for 3 double justice. When Oscar attacks, gain a shadow influence. Then when you have 6 shadow influence, when you sacrifice a non-Valkyrie unit, it becomes a Valkyrie with flying. At the end of your turn, play it from your void. Of note, you have to sacrifice it. You can't just die in combat or something like that, which is something that you do see in Argenport Limited. All right, Gunner, what are you looking at in this pack and why, friend?
So the first thing that struck me was the whole top line is great. To be honest, it's I would be happy picking any of those 4 first, starting my draft with any of those. I just think it kind of depends really which direction you want to go, which way you want to take the draft. Curtain Call is quite committing. I mean, I don't mind it outside of Xenon, time and Shadow, but obviously it shines there. Omen Scar Worm is just fantastic, probably the best finisher outside of like rare that you can get in the entire format. It just comes down, dominates the board, and if it's not silenced or removed, you just keep on gaining more and more advantage and just seals the game up pretty quickly. But it is the most committing to like a single color, and the most expensive as well, which is something I do look at. Mobilization has gone up a lot over the course of the format. In my estimations, initially I wasn't very high on it, but now, apart from probably Ancient Serpent and Sky Serpent, it's probably the 3rd best primal uncommon you can get, and it's just really strong. Lots of stats over lots of units, and Oscar as well. Probably the least flashy, I guess, but it's still a very decently statted unit, and the surge effect is quite powerful as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you like Mobilization just as a primal card, or do you like it specifically for Skycrag, the essential go wide?
Yeah, so it shines there, and in Feln as well, where I think you need to gum up the ground early, and sort of try and work towards the late game, getting your card advantage engines online, and it does that really well. I would honestly be happy with it in any primal deck, really. I don't play Elysian too much. I don't tend to in this format, but it's still serviceable there. And even in Huru, if you don't have sort of any better 3-drops, it works there as well, I think.
Nice. All right, so what is your pick here?
So my pick would be Omen Skull Worm, just because it's the most powerful, I think, card you can get. Because we're first picking it, we can kind of sculpt our draft around it a little bit. Value apprentice mages higher to get the ramp going. Take some time symbols if we get the opportunity, so the influence isn't too much of a cost. And yeah, just kind of build our deck. Because if you start, especially in Combre, I found if you start with sort of the ramp, if you start by taking the apprentice mages early and stuff and enter the monastery, you can end up in a situation where you don't actually have any top end. Whereas if you start with the payoff, you can then build towards it from the beginning.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I completely can respect that. I like Omen Scar as well. Sending over to you, SuperVaderMan. What do you think about this pack?
Yeah, like again, the entire top row is pretty good. Oscar isn't as good as the others, in my opinion. Shout out to Smugwing Tinker. It's also a fine finisher, but you're more likely to find a Smugwing Tinker later than you are any of the other ones. Obviously, it's a common. Omen Scarworm is probably essential if you're going time, because time doesn't have a lot of top end, right? It has like Allosaur is like the most common top end you're going to find for time. So if you're going to go time, like you should probably pick up an Omen Scarworm when you get the chance, because you probably not get like the best thing you're going to get after that is like a Belgian Behemoth, which is not nearly as exciting. Curtain Call, it's very committing. Like I don't consider it a very good card outside of specifically Xenon. Like +2 lifesteal, like that doesn't keep your units alive. It keeps you alive a little bit longer, I guess, but yeah, obviously, like I would not play it outside of Xenon probably. Mobilization. Never underestimate the ability of just clogging up the ground with a bunch of garbage. like that can keep you alive for a very long time if someone's getting aggressive to you or in general. And getting 4 1/2s out of a single card, very, very good. Especially in Feln when you can just dig for it with a Valley Clan Sage and then just hold the ground until you can res your stuff with False Demise. And Oscar is like slightly better than Caravan Guard, but it's not super great. Like I've never gotten the sextuple, is that the word? Shadow influence with him. It looks very exciting if you can possibly get it, but I've never done it, so like I don't really value it very highly compared to everything else here.
Yeah, it's a little awkward too, right? Because if you're an Argenport, you probably are in there because of Backbreaker, which means you want more Justice than Shadow anyways, so it makes that part a little awkward. But
that's true, yeah.
You did mention that you think that's the weakest one out of that cycle. Do you actually put the man, I find that a little difficult in limited, only because how many times, one, much like what Gunner said, a lot of people are not really playing Elysian in this format, so that one, the Conjure, plus in limited, trying to get 2 spells in 1 turn seems a little rough for me. In Constructed, a lot of people do it with the Silexes giving them the treasure. And then the other side of that is the what is it, Anaya Ion? That one I actually do like when you get it activated because it takes combat tricks away from your opponent, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, so what's your justification for putting Oscar at the bottom? I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, obviously, if anything, I would value your opinion over mine. I'm just curious your thought process.
I put it at the bottom because most of the time it's just going to be a 2/5 blocker, and like you have Caravan Guards for that, right?
Okay, so it's a little more just the victim of being in that faction than it is the card then.
Yeah, it's basically just Caravan Guard adjacent, whereas like Mobilization, you're not getting anything like that anywhere else in that faction.
Okay, so what's your pick here? Is it Mobilization?
No, for me it'd actually be Omen Scarworm. Like getting a finisher early is pretty nice, I think. Whereas Mobilization is like, if you're already in those colors, like great. Omen Scarworm is something you definitely want if you end up being that faction. Whereas Mobilization, like, you can live without.
And are both you guys just kind of into that school of thought, much like I think we are here on this podcast in general, of just being really willing to dump your first pick? Because the quad time is very, very committal. I've learned that with Smogwing Tinker because I value that card quite highly, and we've learned that with Disappear, where Quad Influence is not the easiest thing to put together, even in a 2-color deck sometimes. So are you guys just not worried about the 4-color commitment over mobilization just being 2 faction or 2 influence?
It's a consideration for sure, but I think being an 8-drop kind of it negates that a little bit, right? Because by the time we're at 8 power, we should, if we beat our deck, our mana base, power base correctly, we should be pretty much set on that side of things. And symbols as well, I found, help a lot with reaching those quad requirements. Also, because like the Tinker, it's a great card, and yeah, it kind of fills the role of a finisher. But to get it on turn 6, you want to be running a fairly heavy justice power base on that side of things.
Yeah, and this set more so than previous sets, you really just have to really pay attention to what's open. And if your first pick doesn't put you in a faction combination that's open, then yeah, you got to toss it. It's not like the previous set or two where it was like a 3-faction set where you could afford to splash pretty heavily.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no, I agree. Cool. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to break it up, like tap into y'all's knowledge while we have you here. Alex, John, do you guys have anything to add?
I mean, I love being in time and getting the worms late, but it's a very good first pick. That's also what I would take.
I've literally nothing to add. I also would pick the Omen Scar Worm here.
Sweet. Nice. Good. I'm
What
glad.
about you, Jedi?
Oh, man, honestly, like I could easily take all of them.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind a curtain call. Because really, I really like it in a Stone Scar Stone Scar is pretty much the only color combination that I really like it outside of. Well, no, I guess I could play it in Felon as well because you have evasive units. I agree with Vaderman where I definitely respect the fact that it's not as powerful when you're outside of Xenon, but when you're in a deck that has no problem attacking, sometimes the life gain part of it, keeping you alive, can really change the clock on a race, and I like that. Or just upgrading, even in Felon, if you put it on 2 of your 1/2 beasts that you get off of mobilization, now you can kill a bigger unit, gain a bunch of life, etc. So I have used it, but yeah, the power difference is definitely out of it. I've had good and bad experiences with the quad factions where sometimes you just jump into it and you're like, sweet, get rewarded. Though I'll be honest with you, lately here I've been adapting the style of not really locking those in until somewhere about pick 4 or 5 when I see what's really getting passed to me. So I think I would, plus I've been just hoorooing it up like nobody's business because that's what's always been open for me for some strange reason. Like I've been getting changey sticks and valiant leaps like they're going out of style. So I actually probably would take mobilization here. Just because it leaves me more flexible, and that's just what I've been seeing in the packs, where Omen Scar, with my luck, I'd take it, and I think it's a perfectly 100% respectable first pick because it is extremely powerful, but then probably about pick 3 or 4, I'm like, well, guess I'm off time. So that's me. But yeah, I've packs 2 and 3 have just been insane for me as far as when it comes to Primal, or even today you guys saw it where we straight up passed a really good Huru deck. But yep, so just for the sake of going against the grain and being super conservative, I'd take mobilization here, but clearly that's probably the wrong pick. So but all right, that's our pack 1 pick 1. I was gonna try to get out of that without saying anything, John, so thanks for calling me out. All right, so with that, we'll dive into our main topic, which is picking the brains for as much limited wisdom as we can off of both Gunner and Vader. That, of course, congratulations to both of you, are going to Worlds, thanks to you finishing in the top 4 of the draft tournament championship thing, all-star, doohickey, whatnot, across multiple days. So first off, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you guys. I guess we'll find that out first. So Gunner, how long have you been drafting and draft experience and stuff? And what got you to prep for Worlds? Obviously you got the day 2 bye, so you draft a lot. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I come from a Magic the Gathering background. I've played that sort of for 9 to 10 years. And yeah, just fell in love with Draft over there pretty much, and just have been drafting on and off since then, really. Got into Eternal, and I think it was in set 2, so it was pretty early on. I caught LSV streaming it one day, and just thought, oh, this looks cool, and yeah, just hopped right in. I really like the kind of the asynchronous draft, kind of hooked me in a little bit, because that was super different to Magic, but quite an elegant way of doing it, so that you can draft anytime, anywhere, leave the draft, come back to it, type thing. And yeah, I've just I saw the announcement last year after I think there was like a limited / draft championship last year, which I really enjoyed playing, which the first day was sealed, I think, and then the second day was draft, if I remember correctly, and yeah, I saw the announcement about earning the points each month, and just thought, hey, that sounds quite cool, and yeah, managed to get 100, 105, I think it was in the end, QP things, and yeah, just took it from there. I didn't really do any special prep for the event. I wasn't actually entirely sure that I would be able to make it and actually play on the day, because something emergency came up, but I was able to sort that out and get back literally as the stream and the draft was starting, which was an ideal preparation, but
Nice. I'm glad you were able to make it, for sure. That would have been extremely frustrating. That's one of the things that we have heard an outcry from the community, is just the last minute and like adjustments that Direwolf does makes it frustrating for people to accommodate when they work on the weekends, or they're in different parts of the world where the timing is extremely odd. One last thing about your background. What's been your favorite set to draft thus far in Eternal?
oh, that's a good one, actually. I really like the first set I drafted, which is normally what most people say. I found I absorb a lot of content, Eternal streams, Magic streams, and stuff like that. And people that have been playing the game for a long time normally say the first set that they draft is one that they kind of hold dear. So yeah, probably set 2 was one that I liked a lot. There was kind of like tribal things going on, the Yeti tribal, Dino tribal, which is kind of cool. I mean, Bond wasn't great mechanic, but it was fine. And yeah, just
And
probably
that was Dusk Road, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So yeah, that is, so tribal is always fun. I always feel like that's a fun format, because you get some payoffs, you get to kind of do your thing with essentially a tribe that you enjoy. So that makes a lot of sense. Nice.
And, you know, dinosaurs as well, right? Because who doesn't love dinosaurs?
I'm not gonna lie, the first cube draft I made was 100% dinosaurs. As for Elysian, like I 100% did that. Yeah. Omens of the Past, that's what it was. Empty Throne, then Omens of the Past. All right, sweet. Sending it over to you, Vaderman. I know you've been on the show before, but we've get new listeners in every week, so give us a little bit on your limited background, if you don't mind.
My limited background. Well, I've been playing the game since set 2 as well. Though I haven't started seriously drafting until like 10 or 11 months ago, when the draft championship was announced. Like ever since then, I've only ever played Gauntlet and Sealed. That's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't play Constructed at all. I am exclusively a limited player. Yeah, like as soon as the draft championship was announced, and saying that you could earn your way into a day 2 buy with your performance, getting these DCP points, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try that. I'll try doing this very serious thing, even though I haven't drafted seriously up until that point. But apparently I'm pretty decent at it. I've gotten top 20 every single month leading up to the tournament. I ended with like 160 DCP. So that's neat, I guess.
I would say
like,
so.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But yeah, I've only been drafting seriously for less than a year. Like I haven't been drafting for that long, honestly.
One thing to note as well that makes that even more impressive is the fact that I believe I recall you saying that you're free to play, correct?
Yes, I very rarely spend money on this game. Um, I I spent like $35 like 1 month, and then like another 35. 35, if you don't know, is the minimum required to get like a free draft ticket. That's the only reason I care about spending money on this game. I don't own any of the campaigns, which is a little unfortunate because um, the constructed tournament coming up, you probably need some campaign cards in order to have a good deck. So I'll probably have to get those.
Yeah, that's
But
actually something we're going to touch on later on in the show. So
but yeah, like for the most part, I just grind like Gauntlet and do dailies, and that's it.
nice. And just out of curiosity, do you have like a preferred Gauntlet deck?
I have a Skycrag deck um, that I net decked all the way back in set 2, and I've sort of been modifying it a little bit ever since then. Um, the first big one being the introduction of the market in set 3. So and that's been seeing me through up until today.
Nice. All right, cool. So we'll stick it with you then and try to go back and forth between you guys. So you also got your buys because you just stated 160 insane draft points. I don't think I've gotten that in the entire time I've been playing Eternal. But anywho, moving on. So did you, starting off at the very basic, did you approach this draft in particular different from what you do any other draft?
Not particularly, although I did pay special attention to what my 7-win deck lists looked like prior to the event, specifically for this format. I save all of my 7-win deck lists, although I've had to delete a few recently.
Humble
They only
brag.
give you so many deck spaces to work with, and I'm running out. Yeah, like I just looked at my 7-win deck lists and saw that all of them had cheap interaction that was relevant for most of the for most stages of the game. Stuff like Rebuke, stuff like Grizzly Contest, Frost, the things that can stop like a big attacker or make some significant impact on the game. Like cards like Disappear and Cut Ties and stuff. Those are very good, but they're also very expensive. They're not going to keep you alive if your opponent gets aggressive on you early on. So I kept that in mind. That was the big one that I was paying attention to as I was drafting.
Mm-hmm.
And my first deck for the first half of the tournament was like I thought it was sort of like a mediocre Cumbre deck, but it had like metal, it had like Pause for Reflection, Safe Return, sort of like very just like C or D interactions. But sometimes that's all you need. And they like even Pause for Reflection, that kept me alive for multiple games. Like it got me there. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a card that I personally don't value very highly, but it has definitely done some work on my opponent's side of the board. So it's one of those cards that sometimes I feel like I need to reassess, or if it's just the way I'm playing. And yeah, you definitely have clearly the skill to back it up where you can take suboptimal cards. Plus, there's always that thing sometimes too that I see where when you think a deck is pretty low, somewhere between 3 and 4 range out of 10, that you play tighter because you feel like you need to squeeze out every bit of value out of everything, versus when you think your deck is busted, you're just like, this deck will win on its own. So were you getting mixed signals during the draft? Is that why you felt like you didn't get as higher quality of deck as you were anticipating getting, or did things change from pack 1 to 4, etc.?
I was considering splashing cards because my deck was not very impressive. It wasn't necessarily that I was getting mixed signals. It's just the factions I was in didn't look super impressive, but I also wasn't being passed very strong cards in general. Like I got past like a Murky Tentaclesis and like no other good shadow cards. I got past the Thunder Wings and no other good fire cards. So I was like, is this just gonna be like luck of the draw and I get like a very mediocre draft through no fault of my own? What's going on here? But
Understand. And all right, and then did things turn around for you in your second draft for top 8?
oh yeah, my second draft was much cleaner. Like I picked like first pick Maveloft Huntress, second pick Pillage, and just rode the Skycrack train all the way through. Got like a Nika and a Changey Stick pick too, and I was feeling super good about that draft. Let me tell you.
Nice. And so that one was just one of those where the lane was open, you identified early, and the cards just kept flowing?
That's exactly it.
Was that one of the archetypes you were hoping to be in? Was Skycrack going into this or no?
Oh, Skycrag is my favorite faction combination to play. So that was just sort of a happy coincidence. Like, obviously, you have to be open to whatever is open. You just have to be able to play every deck in the game if you're going to be good at draft. But I enjoy Skycrag more so than any other faction pairing. So I was happy with that.
Nice. Sweet. All right, sending it over to you, Gunner. First things, what were some of the I guess signposts that you were looking for going into this draft, like some of the things you were maybe hoping to force, like factions or cards that you were looking for that really you had a high priority on going into these drafts day 2?
Yeah, I didn't really have too many preconceptions in mind, similar to Vader really. I didn't go out trying to force anything. I was just trying to, see what was open, especially in this format. I think that's key for sure. Just trying to stay open to, what you can get in pack 2 and 3, because the overall card quality there is so low that you can't really afford to railroad into colors too early and then kind of get stranded a little bit in pack 2 and 3. So I kind of had the most success recently with Feln and Combray specifically. I don't save my deck lists that I have. I just kind of keep a record of how I get on during the month and make like little notes here and there. But yeah, just I think when it comes together, Feln is probably the best deck in the format, if that makes sense.
Okay. And so you show up for day 2, you start your draft. Were you able to get into film?
I was so happy just to be in the event and playing, right? Because of sort of what had gone on earlier in the day, that I wasn't paying attention to too much of how I didn't record any drafts. I didn't sort of make a note of my picks and stuff. I was just enjoying the experience of playing in the tournament. It's like it was super exciting to have the coverage and stuff going on. So going into draft 2, I believe I first picked in Prison out of quite a weak pack, and then I think it was either in Prison or Backbreaker pick 2, and that kind of set me on the road really to I haven't drafted much Argenport in this format. I don't think it's particularly good, but when it comes together, if it's open and you open well, it can be pretty strong.
Nice. And those were your pack 1 picks. Do you remember anything about your pack 2 that might have locked in Argenport for you?
I'm just having a look through now, and honestly, the cards that I have in my deck that were in pack 2, there's not many of them, I have to say. There's a Slumbering Stone, which is I just had in there sort of for sack fodder, a Veteran Strategist, which I think I got in pack 3, which by that time I already had 1 Island's Choice, I think, which came around quite late. And then I was lucky enough to get the second one as well. And as I already had the 2 Imprisons by that time, I was kind of open to splashing, especially something that powerful. And yeah, I honestly don't have too many signposts for. It was just making player was, all-star dire with Rampager at the top end. It's about all you can get in Shadow. So yeah, it just, lucky enough I was able to get the high card quality in packs 1 and 4 that helped me out.
Nice. And you did end up going, was it Purpose? Splashing Primal?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Splashing 2 Island's Choice and a Display of Purpose. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Island's Choice seems to do so much work for me in so many ways. Both the killing a large unit that's attacking and sometimes just countering a big spell. Like, it does hit Disappear, it does hit Imprison, it does hit Snap. So I like that card quite a bit. Did you see some pretty good success with that card as well?
Yeah, it exceeded all my. I mean, I know it's good, right? You know it's going to be good, but with open deck lists, I know you can't really play around it, and that's why I think it's so good. It's like, what's the opponent going to do? Kind of not going to attack or not going to play expensive spells. It's kind of they even though they know it's there, it's similar to in Prison. You can kind of play around a little bit, try and go wide and stuff. But Island's Choice specifically, was very, very good.
And then how did you feel about Imprison as well? Because that power level of that card has definitely gone up for me. I haven't been able to play it at all, to be, to the surprise of no one probably. But that card, the fact that it's fast speed, that you can do it mid blocks or mid attacks and stuff like that, I think is quite powerful. That card's pretty, did you see some pretty good value off of it during the tournament?
Yeah, no, it was very good, very good. I think I got quite lucky with the matchups because there wasn't too many. I mean, apart from the final, there wasn't too many token strategies that can kind of make it look a little bit suspect. But I had so much other removal. The backbreakers, Razor Lash, Siphon and Paladin to kind of clear up all the little units, and then just have the Imprison too, which it just kind of pushes you over the edge in terms of turning the corner to taking back control, and then just finishing off with just random beaters that you can put together.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well put. Keeping it on you, Gunner. There was something that, due to technical difficulties, we've already talked about in the show, and I think the community has as a whole on Reddit and Twitter and whatnot, that the draft tournament was definitely a bit of a shambles as far as on the production side of it, with plenty of errors and whatnot, to the point where after the top 8 was decided, they postponed playing the actual top 8 till a later date, which obviously was pushed to this weekend. I believe that was roughly a 4-week gap, if I remember. But how did that gap play on your state of mind and your preparation for it? Did you appreciate the extra time to kind of get yourself ready for the top 8, or did it kind of make the adrenaline portion of it, like, how did it affect you?
Yeah, sure. So after the third match, right, getting to top 8, I was pretty hyped. Let's just say, jumping around a little bit and just enjoying it. But when the announcement came through that it was going to have to be suspended, probably in hindsight, it was a pretty good thing for me personally, from a selfish point of view, because it was pushing sort of 11 p.m. my time already. Had pretty draining matches in all 3 rounds, and I was kind of, especially after what had happened early in the day as well, kind of, I was ready to come back another day, so to speak. So that kind of worked out quite well, and it also gave me a bit more time to actually look at my deck, even though it was locked in, just to see, okay, this is my deck, this is what I can do. I decided to play a market, which I don't normally do, but I had quite a few good options off of Justice etchings. So I figured I can just have a look at that, see what kind of lines, and just kind of work out the game plan, really, of how I expected the games to go in order to win.
Nice. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. That gives you, you brought up a very good point, where sometimes these tournaments can run very late, where you're dealing with a lot of mental fatigue and stress where some great players end up playing suboptimally in top 8 and you wonder why, but it's because they've played 20, 30 games to get to that point. And so it's definitely something there. And I've told people sometimes I just like taking an aggressive deck to a tournament. So you get a little bit of respite in between rounds and save a little bit of mental exertion
for sure.
along the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Vader, what how do you feel about the gap between the top 64 and top 8?
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the opposite end of Gunner there. He seems to be relieved that there was a gap, whereas I think it negatively impacted my performance because I was pretty hype once I got into top 8. I was ready to keep on trucking through. By the time I got to Gunner, though, I felt like I was playing way too loosely versus Gunner. I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but Gunner got first, I got second. That first game, Gunner,
yeah,
you probably know the exact misplay that I made. Is when I played Maveloft Huntress when I wanted to kill your blocker with Maveloft Huntress so I could attack through with my Frostkin to break your backbreaker. I imbued without meaning to, because like I had already worked out the line in my head, like, oh, I'm gonna kill off his Silverwing Familiar, or no, it's or whatever it's called, the 1/1/2 Revenge.
Familiar.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna kill that off and then break his weapon. But then I played Maveloft Huntress, and like it's like my brain was on autopilot. I just imbued without even thinking about it. So like, Frostkin just sat there and died to your backbreaker next turn. And that just sort of set the mood for the rest of the game. Because like there was another notable misplay I did. I don't know if you realized it, or like if you went back and watched the VODs. I had a Primal Etchings in my hand, and followed by the Shifting Illusion, the Plunderbug. I could have drawn power and then subsequently plundered for an extra draw. I didn't do that because it just didn't even click in my head that I could do that.
Oh yes, yeah, I think I remember. Yeah.
So I would have been like an extra draw ahead, and just like a couple little misplays like that just sort of added up. And I feel like I could have won that first game against you if I hadn't done those things. So yeah, like I definitely feel like the gap definitely had a negative impact on my performance. I was just playing too loose. I was too relaxed. I wasn't thinking my plays through, and I feel as though that cost me the tournament, which is very unfortunate for me. But hey, sometimes that's all it takes, is just the other person plays a little bit more tightly than you. So I'm not really put off by it by this point. I'm over it. So
yeah, but there's absolutely nothing trying to evaluate your plays and get better, right? That's exactly how you pick up on it and stuff like that. And there's something to be said. I mean, there's obviously two schools of thought, that there is no such thing as momentum, but sometimes people do run hot. You're in the zone, you're kind of feeling your plays, you like where your train of thoughts are going, and you can kind of keep that momentum to catapult you into the top 8 and then potentially win the tournament entirely. So there's definitely something to be said when you are on a bit of a hot streak or just feeling good about the way your playing is at, and then all of a sudden just being like, nope, all right, you're done. Try to pick that up later at a way later date. Not even the next day. You're talking weeks later on down the road. So there's definitely something to be said about that for sure.
If I might just add this one last bit to Gunner. I had that double damage Nico on board. If my next draw had been like a jump kick or something, I would have gotten you.
Yeah. No, it was a tight one for sure, and the imbue was super unfortunate. And I think I need to go back and look. I haven't looked at the VODs. I kind of wanted to keep them in my mind where I don't make any misplays, and it just all went perfectly. But no, I definitely need to go back and have a look for sure, and take a look and see, especially what the guys had to say about it as well in the on the VOD.
Yeah, it's. I think that's one of the exciting things about limited, right? Is trying to see what kind of random one ofs can get you out of certain scenarios, and we've talked about it plenty of times. I mean, shit happened to me today. It's happened to me before, where sometimes just one turn of events somewhere in the game can lead to where you're ahead the entire game by a turn or behind the entire game by a turn, and it's insane. Did you pick up on that one essential missed opportunity, Vader, in game, or did you not pick it up till later on?
I
The
know.
one.
I noticed immediately. As soon as I imbued, I'm like, oh no, what
Oh
have I
no,
done?
I'm sorry. The etchings to plunder, to draw an extra
Oh, as
card.
soon as I played the shifting illusion, I'm like, oh, I had a way to get power. I could have drawn here. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, there's something to be said about being able to identify suboptimal plays or even misplays and be able to recover from them, right? That's one of the things that sometimes it happens. You make the mistake and you have to make the most of the situation. Definitely not tilt and to cause you to lead into further mistakes or a downward spiral. I mean, uh, I guess if I could reflect a little bit, there was one time because I did it in stream. I was participating in the Tuesday night tournament back when they had that in the invitational, and I literally talked through a play. I was like, cool, if we draw power, we're gonna do A, B, C, and D, and that's gonna be our play, and that's the best thing we could do this turn. And I draw the power, and I'm like, sweet, so we're gonna do A, B, C, D, and D. I immediately play the power and attack, which was completely not what I talked about. And man, I tilted so hard there. Like I even told the stream, I did it on stream, and they were broadcasting it on the tournament series channel. So endless amount of Eternal people, and it was still early in my Eternal streaming career. So I was just like, yep, I just utterly punted that to high heaven. And I told chat, I was like, chat, give me about 30 seconds. I'm going to run the timer real quick because I need to center myself and recover. And, sometimes it is. The biggest thing is definitely not let that essentially cost you the tournament. And thankfully you have the skill set where you're able to maybe not recover completely in that, but you can incrementally kind of mitigate that damage essentially. If I can kind of get a little deep on it. You actually made a perfect segue into the next question, which was, were there any memorable or questionable lines that you had during the tournament that really stood out to you to help you secure your win?
Two.
Yeah, you Vader.
Oh, to secure my wins, the wins that I did get.
I mean, you went really far. I mean, I know the feeling. It's like, close but no cigar. But at the same time,
I know I should be happy about second.
No,
But I was so close to first.
No, I think anyone that's played competitive card games at all completely sympathizes with you, man. Like, you want to feel good. You're like, man, I went so deep. I cashed this and that. But then at the same time, you're like, but I didn't win.
So for the games that I did win against Twanbun and a rank 13 or 14, I don't remember what the number is. Against Twanbun, I saw, this is the benefit of having open deck lists, is that you can see exactly what their strategy is going to be sometimes. I saw that Twanbun had a lot of 7-cost units, had a lot of ramp. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put him off of his power as much as possible and make his cards as awkward to play as possible. So I took every opportunity to kill his 2-drop power units. I killed his what is it called? The 5/3 that gives you power.
Battery Mage.
Yeah, Battery Mage. And doing that in our third game, because he won against me once, I feel that secured me that win pretty effectively, because I saw in the VODs, he had his power situation was very awkward. He had a lot of expensive cards he was wanting to play, but he couldn't because I focused down his power generation as much as possible. There was one opportunity he was on 7 power. He saw that I had a 5/5 flyer, and he was just going to kill it with From Anguish, but I countered it with Caleb's Choice, and then he wasn't able to play his Allosaur. which would have also killed my flyer. So doing that pretty effectively secured me that win, where his power situation was just so awkward the entire game. So that was a memorable line that I took in that game. Yeah, like against A rank, I saw that he had like all these really expensive spells and like 3 machinists, right? So like I could tell what his strategy was right away. It was, obviously watching the tournament as it was happening as well. He had like Vengeful Flight, he had False Demise, he had Erebos Machination. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try rush him down as fast as possible, and I'm gonna kill his machinist every time that I get the opportunity to, because I don't want him to run me over with his late game. But thankfully, I was able to do so. In one game, I was able to fly over with a 24 attack Nika. That was fun, and then I was able to just like get through with like 13 damage in the air with like a double damage, a Dust of Brawler with a changey stick. So that was pretty cool, I think.
Changey stick does lead to some great plays for sure. Just being able to take a unit off the board and give another one evasion is just so good, and it definitely can bring you back from a game or seal the deal if you're ahead.
When it comes to memorable lines, I have to give a shout out to the very special MVP of my deck that I wasn't expecting. It's Caleb's Choice. Caleb's Choice won me more games than I can even remember. Like it saved my unit from anguish. It won me that one game against Gunner when he tried to play in prison.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't because I had no one plays around counter spells in draft, right? Like it's like we've been trained to think like, oh, they're not very good. But when you have open deck lists, you know exactly what your opponents have. Like, go ahead, try playing like a counter spell, especially one as versatile as Caleb's Choice, because that countered like your entire strategy, right?
Yeah, it was the one card. Sorry, I saw your list and it was the one card that I looked at and thought, oh no, here we go. Counters in prison, kills backbreaker, kills all the relic weapons that I've got, and yeah, just the big high impact spells that I had, it just took them out straight away.
The only thing it couldn't do anything about is Eileen's Choice, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But having such a versatile counterspell where it's not just a counterspell, but it's also relic removal, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you definitely have a home here on the podcast, because I can't speak for Darth Herman 2, but John Holy and I both have no problems jamming a counter spell in any deck that we have primal, especially Backlash. Like, it's just exactly like you said, no one ever plays around it. So when you get someone with it, it's normally absolutely backbreaking. No pun intended. Actually, yeah, sure, why not? So it's even almost more effective when it is open deck list, because it's one of those things where you only have to have one in your deck and your opponent's like, well, they have 2 power up. Is this a complete blowout or not? Do I go for it or not? It's so good.
That's what I kind of going to add as well about open deck list, right? Is you don't even have to play it. You can just have it in your sideboard. I know Caleb's Choice, obviously you're going to play it, but Combat Tricks specifically, Pause for Reflection, you can have it in your pool, and unless you show it sort of game 1 or game 2, your opponent still has to respect it in game 3, because they don't know if it's in your deck or not if you're playing those colors.
I actually remembered. I actually remembered what my strategy was against A rank. If I might interject.
Yeah, please go ahead. All right, sending it over to you, Gunner. What were some of your memorable plays that helped you take down the tournament?
Yeah, so firstly, probably more than a few questionable lines, honestly. But I need to go back and look through the games to review them at some point. But yeah, there's one game specifically against Isomorphic. I won my first round, which was exceedingly close as well. I think against Tempest Dragonkin, I believe it was. Apologies if that's not right. But yeah, I was down in the first round. I was down a game and had to mull to 6, and managed to pull it back from there down to 1 life. And Murky Tentaclesis managed to get pulled through, which was pretty sweet. And then in the second round against isomorphic. We split the first 2 games. His deck was Elysian, very solid, and I figured, even though I was Feln, had just pulling up the deck list now. I had quite a decent, late game. I had 2 murky Tentacules, Bane Wolf, Ancient Serpent, a couple of Pack Conjurings, and stuff. I just felt like his deck, firstly his deck, and secondly it's isomorphic, and he's like the end boss of end bosses, right, in Eternal Draft, pretty much. So coming up against him it's kind of intimidating a little bit. I've played him on the ladder sort of loads of times and stuff, and I've probably got about 30% win rate against him. So it's just kind of, in your mind, it's a little bit puts you on the back foot, just in like the fear factor kind of way. I don't know if that's just me, but it was pretty tricky. But yeah, we split the first 2 games, and the coverage, the game went on so long that the coverage kind of comes through halfway through the game. He was stuck on 2 power for, it may have even been more, but certainly 5 or 6 turns. But obviously I'm playing Feln. I didn't have my lurking brute, and it was just a super slow start, so I wasn't really able to capitalize. And he just kept on passing the turn, and I was trying to, even though I didn't think I was the aggro deck in that position when he's sort of so constrained on resources, I just figured my best chance of winning, because I was burning through sort of my stuff to just try to put pressure on. My best chance of winning was just to keep on trying to aggressively push through. And I think the coverage just picks up when I retrieve a Storm Prowler from the market, which I think at the time was like a 5/5 or a 6/6. And then he immediately just forgets it. So silence, 1 mana, done. That was my only threat I had really out. And I'm thinking, he's hit his power drops now. He's starting to get, this is where he turns the corner and kind of just takes the game away. So the board kind of stalls out, and he starts to use Clan Valley Sage. They start to use Clan Valley Sage quite aggressively to hit some revenge spells, putting me on the back foot. And I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was about 10 cards left in the library they had. And I'm thinking, he kills my Ancient Serpent with a deadly snowball that he's gotten from a Mischief Yeti that he put to touch a battle on. And yeah, got a deadly snowball that he's saving, he's holding in his hand for ages. And eventually, I keep chipping away with the Ancient Serpent, and he eventually kills it. And at that point, I don't have any pressure at all. He's on about 13 life, and yeah, I'm thinking, okay, the only way I'm going to win this game is if I stall it out, hopefully draw one of my Pack Conjurings and either invoke something or just win by decking. And yeah, it was the craziest game, probably one of the craziest games I've played. He just kept on, he used the Sage a few more times, I think, just trying to hit a Natural Instinct, I believe it was, just to try and get the killer revenge. And luckily for me, it was like the last card, or one of the last cards. And yeah, I can't remember the last time I won by decking someone out, but that was a pretty good one.
Yeah, and that's a great example of just identifying the role you need to play and what your outs are, and knowing when to change gears. And you were applying a ton of pressure, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, hey, this is gonna go to decking. And it's really rewarding when that gets to happen. It's kind of like who picks that up first, right? Luckily, we have that little icon that our deck starts burning when it gets to 10 cards or less, which is a little unfortunate because sometimes you can sneak it up on someone, but with decks with like revenge and whatnot, sometimes you can definitely hide cards and realize that their deck is lower than they think it is because of that and whatnot. So, or you could just be unlucky like me, and the card, my one answer to take this game, is the last card in my deck. So, which sometimes we know thanks to Disappear. Disappear lets us know, like, oh yeah, my best card is at the bottom of my deck. Awesome.
Quick, I don't want to go like too deep, obviously, as we covered kind of some stuff. But
no, go ahead.
I was thinking about specifically this format. I think is the most pronounced it's been for a while, where reevaluating cards in the context of the format is something that maybe I've certainly undervalued previously. And what I mean by that is, for example, like the quintessential, pit brawler, 5-drop in fire specifically, Centaur Outrider, 5/2 for 4, and Dust Hoof Brawler as well, the 5/3 Overwhelm. Before this format, I don't think I'd put any of them in my deck. I'm pretty confident in saying, but in this format specifically, because the creature quality is so bad, their value has risen. The 5 power matters theme is important, and just the overall quality of the creatures at common is kind of not great. So whereas before I would have overlooked them and just thought, nah, they're not. I'm not going to play those just because they haven't been good previously. In the context of the format, they're actually not bad.
That's very true. And I recall specifically listening back on the VODs of the Direwolf stream, that our final match together, they made the comment about my hand, like, man, this is a very limited hand. It was like a Taking Grenadin, a Centaur Outrider, the 5/2, and a Dust Hoof Brawler. It's just nothing.
Yeah.
It's just nothing but awful. Well, what's usually considered awful fire commons. But in the context of this format, it's like, that's a fine hand. It's okay, I guess.
It'll do the job. It'll do the job for sure.
Yeah, you see yourself be like, yeah, I'll take all the brawlers I can in this deck. Sitting there slamming like 3 or 4 or 5 threes with Overwhelm for 5. You're like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I have the same experience exactly, where I would loathe to put them in the deck before, but now it's like, hey, I need a 4-drop. It's like, and it actually works with the Might Weaver and other cards.
Yeah, and like there are some cards that were initially considered like a lot of streamers just kind of like turn their noses up at it like immediately as soon as they saw it, because of their conventional knowledge of how previous formats worked, like a Valiant Clan Sage. Valiant Clan Sage, they're like, oh, 0/5, like, throw cards away. Ooh, cool, I guess. And then, like, turns out Valiant Clan Sage is actually not bad. It keeps you alive, and it can dig for spells. Sometimes that's all you need. It is not like the clan, like the Camp Watchman, like the 0/6 for 2. Like, it actually does something.
It's okay to call me out in my own show, Vader. I appreciate the courtesy, but it's perfectly all right. John and Alex do it all the time. All right, so I think that's going to take us into our last question for this, which is, you guys are both qualified for Worlds. The sad part is that Worlds is going to be a constructed format tournament. And so, being primarily drafters, keeping it with you, Gunner, how are you going to approach this tournament, man? Like, I mean, obviously you don't got to give away the deck that you're going to play if you have that locked in already, but how are your feelings about this?
Yeah, similar to Vader, really. I have played upwards of 1,400 hours of Eternal. I checked yesterday, and probably 10 of those hours are playing constructed at a push. So this is it's going to be new. It's going to be an experience, but yeah, luckily, I'll say luckily, but there's been some balance changes and stuff that hopefully will shake things up a little bit and kind of level the playing field. But yeah, I'm looking to firstly unlock all the cards from the campaigns to be able to use them, and then yeah, get on with some testing and identifying what I'm going to play.
Nice. Well, I mean, luckily I feel like just being able to the skills that you learn in limited, I think to an extent do cross over to constructed and vice versa. I think limited crosses over to constructed more than constructed brings over to limited, but so you're not going to be completely in a newfound land or anything like that. So I definitely think that's going to help you. And then obviously it's most likely going to be open deck list, so that's probably going to give you a leg up as well. So Vader, what about you, man? What's going on with you? Because the people you're gonna be going up against at Worlds is definitely not gonna be gauntlet level.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if we play, it might be, but yeah.
Oh my god, how horrible would that be if they just put the 4 draft champions like together in the first round? That's so wrong.
Yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed that there's no limited play at Worlds. It's like, okay, it's like we qualified for like the MLB championship by playing like the Little League, right? It's like these are two completely different things. But yeah, like, man, the last time I played Constructed was back in set 3. And I probably played less than like 5 games. Like I was probably just doing like some daily. Yeah, like I have never touched Expedition. I've never touched Throne. I don't know what the difference are between those two. Those are after I stopped playing Constructed entirely. So, man, I don't know. I'm gonna play like some Skycrack deck, I guess. I don't know even know if that's viable. I'll just throw something together and just try it.
If you played less than 5 games, then you probably just played your placement matches and then just never touched Constructed. And the other thing you could probably, if I could suggest a strategy, is maybe look back at the history of your drafts and find out what draft deck you had that can closely translate into Constructed, right? Like, all right, if I just make 4 of everything of this draft deck, that might not be too bad, and see what happens, but I'm sure, man, the community is really tight knit. If you need help, I'm sure all you have to do is put the word out, and there'll be plenty of people there to help both you guys out to give you the best chance. At the very least, I know the strictly drafting community might try to help you the best everyone can. We got some people that double dip, like John Holio, Sakarnin, and people like that definitely double dipped. I think they'd be more than happy to help you guys out and get a good showing. So
yeah, if you guys need a deck list, I'm sure I can help you find something like up your alley, even if it's not guaranteed to be the best or anything. I'll help you out gladly.
But all right, sweet guys, really do appreciate that. I hope you all out there learned a lot from that. I sure as heck did, but I guess I always do, considering how my drafting goes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and change the subject awkwardly to our What's the Play? That's right, where we are going to break down a puzzle. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not so easy. And so yeah, we have 2 legitimate pros on the line. Let's find out what they're gonna do. We started off with Gunner for our pack 1 pick 1. So Vader, you're gonna go ahead and tell us what lines you're looking at and what you would ultimately choose to do on this one. Once again, for our listeners out there, I'm going to describe it the best I can, but if you are more of a visual person, definitely check it out on the YouTube where you can see it on screen. So our opponent is on knowledge, vision, right? Vision, or Corendon, which is time, justice, shadow, with a primary looking Argenport. We are on, surprise to absolutely no one, Huru. Our opponent is 2 of 6, and we are at 7 of 7 power. They're at 22 life. We are at 10 life. On the board, our opponent has a 3/5 Caravan Guard, a 1/1 Innovator, that when something comes into play on your opponent's turn, it gets a +1/+1, 6/4 Rampager, and then a 2/2 Pupil, and I believe it does not have a battle skill yet, because of course it would go underneath the Exalted. So our hand consists of a Shifting Illusion, the 1/1 with Plunder, 1/1 flyer with Plunder, a Trickshot Ruffian, the 1/2 Gunslinger that gives the unit +X this turn, which is equal to your influence. And of note, we have 5 Justice Influence. We have a Changey Stick. We have a Wind Conjuring, which is the +4/+4 Windvoke. And then we have the Broadsword, which is the +4/+3 Relic Weapon for 5 Justice. Once again, we are Huru with 5 Justice, 4 Primal Influence, and we're at 7 of 7. Oh, I'm sorry. And our board consists of, I apologize, a 5/8 Aegis Ancient Serpent. Once again, our opponent's at 22, and we're at 10. So, Vader, what are the lines you're looking at here?
Well, first question on my mind is, can I present lethal within 2 turns with the Trickshot Ruffian and the Wind Conjuring? Can I kill my opponent before he kills me? That's the very first question on my mind. But at the same time, you're on 10, right? So like I'm looking at that Wind Conjuring, like, do I have to use this defensively instead rather than offensively? I think what I would do is I would use the Trickshot Ruffian to push damage this turn, and then I would probably protect myself with the Wind Conjuring. I don't think 2-turn lethal is a thing that can be done with this hand specifically when they're at 22. But it's pretty close. So I think I would probably win vote. I would do the Trickshot Ruffian attack in, and then probably eat their Rampager with the Windvoke next turn. You have a the Ancient Serpent with Aegis. I would probably throw out a Shifting Illusion as well to protect myself from like Imprison, because Imprison ignores Aegis. So I would probably throw out the 2/1/1s, do a bunch of damage, and then protect myself with the Wind Conjuring, with this hand specifically.
Wow, I really like how you just snapped that off. And I really appreciate the fact that you were like, they're at 22. Can I kill them? I like that. I like that quite a bit. All right, Gunner, what do you have about this one?
Yeah, so similar to Vader, really. I like to kind of think, what's my plan for this particular turn? I know during the game it would build organically. You kind of go to and fro and stuff, but sort of looking at it from this bird's eye view is kind of interesting as well, for sure. So we don't have the board presence, but our unit, because of the Aegis specifically, I know Vader mentioned it in prison, but that's about the only thing, especially with the Wind Conjuring, that's about the only thing that's going to kill it, apart from maybe Touch of Battle. But as the opponents, are only on one time influence, that's probably not too likely. But then again, they've got an Innovator, so who knows? So yeah, I don't think we played the Broadsword. I think that's definitely ruled out, because firstly, they have open mana, they've got 2 open power. So if they have a combat trick, I know we're probably not beating a combat trick anyway, but if we go equip Broadsword, attack the Rampager, and they pump, for example, then we lose. So I don't particularly like that play. We can clear their board up a bit more and use the Night Sword just to, I think, kind of just take care of what's left. Changey Stick, if we were to use the full spellcraft on the Changey Stick on the Ancient Serpent, for example, and transmute the 6/4, we're still facing 4 attackers, which is a bit risky. Also, the Pupil, if the opponent we pass and then they ace base, we're going to block the Cavern Guard, most likely to prevent the most damage, and then the Pupil will get a battle skill, which could kind of seal the deal for them a little bit. So I think that's out as well. So yeah, I would honestly echo the play that that Vader has said. Play the Ruffian, get in for 10. Then they're most likely going to ace base on their turn, so we can play the Plunderbug just in case. Don't plunder anything. They ace base, we eat the 6/4 with the Wind Conjuring. I'd be interested, Vader, would you invoke or would you not invoke the Wind Conjuring?
I probably would invoke. Like, I'd probably just risk not drawing a power next turn for the Changey Stick, because like invoke is so dumb.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say
yeah.
it's not a good mechanic for draft. I'm just gonna lay it out there. It's so strong. I would rather just roll the dice and potentially just get like a game-ending legendary, like you do like 50% of the time, right?
Yeah,
Like you do.
Like you do.
Man, that's a Great job there, Gunner. You definitely that was exactly what I was gonna ask. So thanks for doing it for me. I appreciate it. Awesome guest.
No worries.
Yeah, man. You know what though? I really feel like I just need to start us off on these what's the plays, because every time we have a guest on, they always pick the best line right off the bat because they're better players.
They really do.
So it's like the rest of us are just like, well, yeah. Like I end up having to play say bad plays just to be so I should just go first because I could pick the bad play that I probably wanted to do, and then they could just justify it with yeah, that's fine, but this is actually the correct play.
Here's how you missed lethal.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any consideration, because you did bring up the broadsword, Gunner, is there any consideration to potentially kind of combining the two where you play ruffian on the, oh no, I guess never mind. Yeah, because if you play the ruffian and attack to identify if they have a trick or not, then you could play the broadsword, but you won't have the power for yeah, exactly. See, that's why I don't do what's the plays, because you guys come up with better lines than I do.
Yeah, broadsword's just a little bit too awkward. If you do broadsword, then you're not gonna have power for when conjuring. You don't have that safety net if you play broadsword. Yeah,
fair. All right, Alex, John, anything to add?
I got nothing else to add. That was everything. Well said, guys.
Yeah, there's maybe you play both the units. I had a crazy idea of plundering the sword so that I have a power in case I don't draw a power after I windvoke. So I could really play the changey stick the following turn if I needed to, but yeah, I also
want the exact thing you need. It's fine.
Yeah.
You could do that also.
It could even be a broadsword again. So
even a broadsword. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why those two guys are going to Worlds. Exactly that. All right, so that's our what's the play for the week, ladies and gentlemen. Last thing we're going to be talking about for our constructed corner. I have a little bit to mention because we failed, and I do apologize about this one. Didn't bring it up the week before, but want to give a quick shout out to some of our team members from Team Eternal Journey that managed to make day 2 on either tournament. Shout out to Ash Acer, Cal Shadowstep, M Sorbet, Sakarnin, our very own John Holio, and newcomer Robot Jellyfish. Shout out to you guys. Congratulations on making day 2 with such a great showing to include at least one of our teammate decks. So that's super awesome. A couple other things I want to give a shout out to. The Throne Challenge winner is Skele. I have no idea, so we'll just roll with Skele. I like that. It sounds kind of awesome. So Skele, and he's probably yelling at me. They're probably yelling at me right now. But with Stone Scar, and then Expedition Challenge winner is Ronin X on Vision Midrange. A couple of quick things. I don't want to get too much into depth because we've had a long show already. But Cravian played a kind of one of Portal deck, courtesy of Drosla, another streamer, where it's pretty much forgot the name of that deck or that card now. What's the name of the portal? The actual portal? Is it
Archmagister's portal?
Thank you. Pretty much, so it gives any card that you play, any unit that you play that's only a one of in your deck, a +1/+1, and it combos with Restrained Order to essentially tutor up all those things. Super fun deck, super cool, definitely went deep. Finished second place with the deck, so shout out to them. And then I really apologize to this person because their name is in kanji and I can't read it, and it's probably not even kanji, so double apologize.
I don't think it is actually. I think it's Chinese characters.
I don't want to I do apologize, but hey, if you're listening to this limited podcast, which I doubt you are, I'm giving you a shout out where they ran 50 power and it's surprise to no one, it's a World Pyre deck, but super cool. Played around with it a little bit. John's assessment of it was correct. It just dies to anyone that has a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop curve, but such is life. The other thing we did want to talk about though is there were some balance changes that dropped this week. A lot of them were primarily focused on constructed, and you guys could check out the Friends of Eternal podcast where Stormblessed and Sunnyvale go deep into the breakdown of all that. The main ones that we're going to be talking about is pretty much Backbreaker and Darkblade Cutpurse, that are cards that we do play in limited because they are both uncommons. Darkblade Cutpurse was the 2/2 For 2 fire influence that has overwhelm and gains attack equal to your shadow influence, it was now nerfed to a 2/1. So that's pretty much the only difference there. And then Backbreaker seeing a slight adjustment as well. Backbreaker was the 5 shadow +6/+1 relic weapon that when you summoned it, it got armor equal to your justice influence. It was now increased to a 6 cost double shadow with the exact same stats. So of course, sending it back over, there are 2 rares, Sunway Smuggler and the Argentport Instigator as well, but we're not worried about those because those are rares. So sending it over to sure, Gunner, you could take this one. How do you feel about these cards? Do you think these nerfs are going to matter at all unlimited, or are they huge? What do you think?
Yeah, so I was thinking actually, would I have picked Backbreaker so highly in the top 8 had I known that it was going to cost 6 instead of 5? It was still 5 at the time we played, thankfully, but yeah, I still think it's great. I still think it's, especially talking in a limited environment, if you can get it up to a 6/4, 6/5 on turn 6, it's going to eat 2 units normally, and that's just massive. And creating that advantage with only 1 card, I think I probably still would have picked it when I did in the top 8, but it was quite interesting to think, how it would have affected my evaluation of it. In terms of the cut purse, the 2/1, I haven't played much Stone Scar at all in this most recent format, so I haven't had much exposure to it, but I've always, especially I saw it in on the semi-final match against Stormblessed, he had it up to, I think it was a 7/2 overwhelm, and if he'd have revenged his Midnight Hunt, or revenged their Midnight Hunt, which was sitting somewhere in the top cards, it would have been a pretty tricky spot for me. So yeah, overwhelm in this format. The one toughness that it's lost hasn't really had make too much difference. I mean, it trades with everything now instead of being able to attack into the 1/5 Siphon of Paladins and stuff. I still think it's quite a strong card in Stone Scar, but I probably wouldn't play it outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there's no Blight Moth in limited right now.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's not too much that punishes one toughness things. That's kind of linking back to what I brought up a bit earlier on. That format dependence in context and stuff. There's some formats where you have the I can't remember what the fire coin was called, but it basically, you attack and it the power, and it does 1 damage and pings. Like in that format, that was a super way to punish people playing 1 toughness stuff. So,
or Ruinous Blast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Vader, do you have anything to add about Backbreaker and Cut Purse in this format?
Yeah, it's funny to me that Backbreaker happens to get nerfed immediately after Gunner wins the tournament with 2 of them in his deck. That's very interesting to me. But yeah, like in Argentport, it's a little bit more difficult to play because Argentport isn't like ramp colors. You're not ramping in Argentport, so like it's gonna be competing with Imprison. I don't know if it's even competing. It's just you're gonna have to play another 6-drop removal thing in addition to Imprison. So it's definitely gonna make it a little bit more awkward, but for the most part, it's not gonna be a big deal in limited. Like it's still like pay 6, usually kill 2 or 3 things. So like, I don't think it's gonna affect limited play all that much. And yeah, Cut Purse. There are a lot of pings in this current format. There's no Blight Moth, which, by the way, if I'm going to play a Skycrag deck and construct it, I'm not looking forward to playing against Blight Moth. I'm just putting that out there.
You're not wrong. Blight Moth, just every time they nerf or buff cards to X1 and X2, it's just so huge because of Blight Moth.
I don't like that card. I've seen people play against it. I'm like, this is the most boring card you can possibly play against. But anyway, yeah, I don't think these nerfs are going to affect limited too much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. All right, then. With that, I think we're going to call it a show. Gunner, thank you so much for waking up in the wee hours of the morning to be on the show. Really do appreciate having you on. Thank you so much. Where can people find you at?
People can find me lurking, mostly in Twitch chat with various Eternal streamers. Something that this is, I was never really like too vocal in the community. I didn't feel like I had much to offer, and yeah, I'm quite a reserved person in general. But for sure, since Sunday, it's I've decided to get more involved and stuff, and it's definitely been rewarding for me, just because the Eternal community is so great, right? I know like every kind of game wants to have the best community, or just our community is great, but this genuinely is so close and tight knit, and yeah, just everyone's just super friendly, offering advice, and thank you for having me, really. Yeah.
Well, we are happy to have you, and yeah, it's definitely nothing wrong with being on the quieter side of things. Like there's plenty of people that stand up and speak their mind as much as they can. So, but I definitely think that someone always has something to offer, and just being on the show, thank you for letting us be one of the tools that you reach out to everyone. SuperVaderMan, I'm so glad that we didn't scare you away after the first show. Thank you once again for coming on and making me look like an absolute fool. I really do appreciate that. Makes the quality of the show higher when actual skill is on here. No offense to John or Alex at all. They're fantastic. Like, John is probably hands down the best player out of the three of us for sure. And then Alex just pulls off some quite amazing stunts on his drafts, hands down. But thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you at?
Well, I have a Twitter now, actually, just at SuperVaderMan on Twitter. I do like 3D modeling on the side, so like that's usually what I'm gonna be posting there.
Nice. Ooh, I might have to hit you up for some designs then.
Yeah, that's cool.
Super cool. All right, John, Alex, thank you guys so much for putting up with me yet again. Really do appreciate it. You guys are great. Guys, you can catch the video version of this show as well as various drafts. I'll probably put it on both the drafts from my stream today because they were absolute train wrecks and too funny to not see. So I don't mind sharing that with you guys at youtube.com/EternalJourney. You can catch me streaming live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. And of course, can't stress enough, join the Discord if you'd like. It's a great resource to talk to other like-minded Eternal people about things in real life, but more importantly about Eternal. Whether you want to get into Constructed or Limited, we have great resources there, people that will help you make your draft picks, adjust your sealed pools, and even help you with constructed decks. It gets more and more active every day. I couldn't ask for a better community, much like what Gunner said. So thank you guys. Definitely check it out. The link down below. Everyone is more than welcome to join. But that's it. That's going to do it for us. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you learned something if you catch any of these great players in game. Once again, Gunner116 or SuperVaderMan, as well as Darth_Herman2, and John Julio. Give them a shout out and congratulate them. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Bye.
See ya.
Good luck in your draft use.